And welcome everyone to the first ever episode. I can't remember if this is 11 or 12.
11?
My mind is in many places right now. I believe it's episode 12.
I bet we said it somewhere.
Of
we didn't.
The SGO Press Pass. Mike Strum, managing editor, Sports Gamers Online here, as always, with lead writer Jake Jacobson. And we have, I say this every week, but we actually finally, after complaining about news always dropping on Thursdays, the day after our show, we actually have big good news to talk about today. We're not going to waste too much time before getting into it. There's a couple of things to address. First, like the plugs, this is the SGO Press Pass, available wherever you get your favorite podcast. Be sure to subscribe. Go to sportsgamersonline.com/podcast. Be sure you're liking, subscribing, and sharing this video on YouTube. It helps us grow the show. Each and every Wednesday night, we come to you live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And lastly, we are brought to you by SGO Insider, our premium subscription service, giving you insight to games, news, guides, interviews, and more, giving you the early chance to play games that you might not get the chance to play ahead of time for as little as $5 a month. Go to sportsgamersonline.com/insider. Okay, Jake. Before we get in to the major NCAA news, there's also some ESB, a small ESB update that we'll get to, Esports Boxing Club. But as always, as we start every show, Jake, how are you doing, and what are you playing?
Well, Mike, thank you for having me. You know, I'm a long-time watcher, long-time listener, been listening since episode 1. Really excited to finally be on the podcast. Gonna really try not to blow this audition show. I've been playing a sports game, and you're gonna be shocked to hear this, because it's not Knockout City. I have been playing the latest golf game, Mario Golf Super Rush. And I
don't think anybody's shocked if they've listened to the show the last month.
Yeah. Fans of the show will know. Fans of the site will know that I report on two things for SGO, and it's upcoming golf games and Esports Boxing Club, and and I'm excited to really be in my wheelhouse right now. Except here's the thing. I don't know how much I like Mario Golf Super Rush.
I kind of agree with you. It's much more fun when I'm playing with friends. I don't like playing it by myself.
So that's my thing. It's kind of hard. I don't know how well you can see. You might be able to see it in the background. I'm packing. I'm moving to Chicago this week. And so I haven't had a lot of time to play the multiplayer, but I played through all of the single player on most of what ended up being an 8-hour bus ride. And it's just, and I want to write about this when I get a chance. I just won't get a chance this week. The multiplayer stuff seems really cool. I want to play Speed Rush with people. I like playing with the traditional way because I love how the camera follows your ball and has you shows you where it lands. There's no like surprise with the way that the Speed Rush mode works, where you have to chase the ball down. You don't get that feeling. You don't get that like moment of watching what you've created, right? Because you immediately have to run after the ball. You're not 100% sure where it's going to land. That grew on me though. I don't hate that now. It's kind of fun to do, even if for the story mode, there aren't a lot of consequences to it. I've got two big complaints that I'll outline right now, which is one, the adventure mode, which is like the one player mode, really goes for something weird, but it doesn't commit enough for it to be fun. And I wish it would just either gone all the way weird or none of the way weird and just been like a golf circuit. Two, one of the game modes that I actually really liked, which was the XC golf, the cross country golf, which is basically what happens is it just puts you on a whole 18 hole course, and and your goal is to clear 9 flags in X amount of strokes, but you're traveling the entire course. You don't have to do them in order. And that was actually really fun. And it's not even a mode you can play. You can't even pick that mode. It's literally just that one part of the story mode.
My problem with adventure mode is that it felt so when a couple years ago I reviewed Mario Tennis Aces for the site. Adventure mode in there was just a glorified tutorial. I found it the worst thing ever. Yeah. It was another game where I needed to play multiplayer in order to have fun. And that's kind of what I feel with this. I'm at the point in Mario sports games, if I'm not playing with other people, bore the hell out of me. I can still play Mario Party against CPU, but I can't play traditional Mario sports games.
And I get that, like, that's the point. Like Mario Tennis has never needed to have like a robust story mode. I get that.
No.
But like Mario Golf games have not had robust story modes. One of the Game Boy Advance ones did, but like in Mario Golf, Toadstool Tour, which is the GameCube one, you can at least like do this thing where you're competing against all the other players, like a real golf, and they don't even let you do that in single player mode. Like anytime you choose to play as one player, you are the only person on the course. I don't know. There's just like they left so much stuff on the table that I'm a little disappointed, but I'm excited to play a bunch of multiplayer with my friends because I think the golfing is good. You know, the golfing still feels good. So
agreed.
But yeah, so that's what I've been playing. Mike, is that about the same as you, or have you been sneaking in something else?
So obviously I sneak in Retromania every day.
That's not sneaking.
No, that's obvious at this point. But no, it was been primarily that. Actually, I finally did start playing Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart.
A word.
And my God, is it beautiful.
Yeah, I've heard it's so good to look at.
Beautiful. It's a fun. I enjoy the Ratchet & Clank series, and so I'm excited to see how it continues after this. But I mean, I'm not too far into it because the life of a dad with 2 children.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it. Steam sales going on. If you don't know, there's a bunch of great sports games on sale up until July 8th. We have a list of some of the best deals for you at sportsgamersonline.com. Go check it out. So I've been playing some good games. If you want to get into and I'm getting prepped, and my new office should be done for next week. I wanted it this week, but some things came up to kind of delay that. But I should be starting my Formula 1 2021 review within the next few days. So I am pretty
cool. Yeah, I'm excited to read that.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm excited for our series.
Oh man, I can't wait for that game. Okay. You know what game I also played? This isn't even a joke. I got it working on my son's computer. My son has an old computer that I'm working up for him. I did. It's not even part of the bit. It's legitimate. I got Sid and Golf to work on it. Sid Meier's Sim Golf. Again, I don't even have to force this one. This is legitimately part of what I've been playing. And I'm so happy that I didn't have to force it.
Yeah, look, I'm happy for you, man.
Hold on. We can. That's 5 straight. 5 straight episodes.
He's killing it. Chad, he's killing it is the problem.
But yeah, like I want to get into more Ratchet & Clank. Sports game wise, I'm in that lull until I get my hands and get started on Formula 1, and then things just really pick up steam. Well, there's Mario Golf, but the traditional sports games, I guess.
Right, I get what you're saying. The non-arcade sports games. Mario Golf's just arcade sports game.
But Madden's an arcade sports game.
Shut up. They added an arcade sports mode. A lot of people in chat playing old NCAA games, just getting real warmed up for this one. And I get it. I think about NCAA Football 14 all the time. I think I've been putting off trying to get it to run on the computer. I think after I move, I might finally commit to it, but I'm not.
We could sit down and work on that off air. But before we get to the college football news, and now this episode was originally just going to be, we were going to do a retrospective of the series. And then about 2 hours before it hit the NCAA news, which we'll get to, but we do have a small update for the boxing fans here. And we know there's a lot of them, including the 2 of us. Jake, you have an ESBC June update to talk about quickly. What is in that update?
Yeah, so we get enough people who come in and ask if we have any ESBC updates, and The way that ESBC seems to update is they tend to kind of go quiet for 3 or 4 weeks, and then they'll come out with a big trailer or a big reveal or a character show, which they were doing with Todd Grisham for a while, every couple of weeks. And then they go into this lull again. We're currently in one of those lulls. But they released sort of a written, I mean, it's not a blog post because they're not posting this to a website. They're just linking images. But basically, they do a little development blog post every month at the end of every month. So the June development update came out today. The big takeaways here is that the studio has been working a lot on the back end of the game this month. They specify updating the back end systems to support the huge roster that they're bringing. And they specifically say that a big reason for that is that when the back end that they had initially for the game, they've just blown up the scale of the game so much now that they've got to go back in and they've got to fix it up. They talked about the E3 trailer, which we talked about at our E3 show. They said they didn't plan on being there, but that Games Radar reached out to them and was like, do you want to be shown to a bunch of more people? And they said, yeah, of course we do.
No, we don't want it. We don't want the publicity. No.
The big update here is the sort of soft announcement that there's the next video trailer in the chamber for ESBC is that there's going to be a gameplay walkthrough video. They don't give a timetable. They say soon. So that could be July, that could be August. I'm guessing based on the way that they do these, that will probably come 2 or 3 weeks into July, because they seem to do one of these updates and a couple weeks later they've got something to show for it. And yeah, so basically it says they're going to showcase some of the features that they've been talking about in previous updates. So if you're not sure what those features are, you can find all of those updates on sportsgamersonline.com. But yeah, so that's the next thing to look forward to. And as they continue giving little bits and pieces of gameplay, so like the E3 trailer was another good example of this. It's just a little bit of gameplay. They really snuck it in. And they tend to raise more questions than they answer when they do that. So I'm interested to see an actual like gameplay walkthrough, to hear them just talk about like, here's how any of these systems are going to work. Because, they talk about the footwork system, the legendary footwork system, and they showed off this kind of dizzying system at the E3 showcase, where like they've got a thing built in where characters might fall off balance. And it's not an animation thing, it's a physics thing. And I want them to say what that means, because I don't really know what that means. So
yeah, I'm interested. I do think we're getting to that point where they said by September, we'll have an alpha on the PC. So we're getting to that point where a lot of people are getting antsy. I'm getting antsy. We do have some awesome ESBC content, hopefully coming your way mid to late July. Can't say too much just yet until pen hits the paper and we have that all ready to go. But a little tease there. Before we get to the main topic at hand, that's NCAA football, if you have any questions that aren't related to the topics of the show, as always, we try to get to as many of them as possible at the end of the show during our FAQ section or Q&A, whatever you want to call it. If you want to guarantee your message or question gets answered and read on the air, provided it's not vulgar-filled like calling me names, leave us a super chat. Any little bit helps. It helps us grow, get better equipment, produce a better show for you guys each and every Wednesday, and produce more shows throughout the week, which we are actively working on, hoping to announce something soon. I do have a big announcement coming for SGO related to our annual SGO showcase coming up in the second week of July, so you're going to want to stick around for that. We will have that on sportsgamersonline.com and all our social media channels. So, the big thing here, if you didn't know, again, a couple hours ago, we're filming this Wednesday night, the NCAA, it broke that the NCAA, the AP reported, NCAA clears way for athlete compensation as state laws loom. Now, that basically says, for a lack of a better term, players can get their money. There's that meme of that football coach is like, tell him to bring me my money. And
I saw that clip like 12 times today.
All
it's very good every time.
That's all I think about now with this. Christian, you're going to get one. That's all I'm going to say. It'll happen. But there's a lot to take away from this. And to recap, Jake, I think you have everything open and you can kind of give us a little recap, a TLDR, I guess, of where we're at or how we got here over the last handful of months, couple years, actually.
Yeah, I'll try to use some brevity and get to the point on this one too. I've been reading some feedback on the YouTubes. So it technically starts a long time ago. Basically, one of the big reasons EA Sports stopped doing the NCAA series is because the NCAA started to get in trouble for basically letting EA Sports create the players, but the players weren't getting the money. EA offered to reach out and pay players for those likenesses, and the NCAA was like, no, we're not going to do that. So EA, for that and other reasons, dropped the series, right? So as of sometime last year, let's say June, I want to say June. As of June of last year, the state of Florida passed a law that would allow college athletes to profit off of endorsements in Florida, which was the first one of these cards to fall. Because the big argument against students being able to get paid for doing work, which is what they're doing, is the amateurism, right? The amateurism aspect. And, I don't know so much about this. This has led to, years of bagmen and sponsor and not sponsors, but like boosters and stuff like that, so that these kids can get paid because they should. So then earlier this year, they announced EA Sports College Football is coming back. The licensing was a big question for a lot of people. They came out and clarified that they were working with the where is the name for this? What does the CLC stand
the Collegiate License Committee.
The Collegiate License Committee, which basically does a bunch of merch, right? It's just a big organization that owns the likenesses to these colleges and these brands. And so EA was able to avoid the NCAA and not even interact with sort of the issue that got them out of the game in the first place by reaching out to this company who is in charge of the likenesses of the colleges. Which is not ideal, right? Like, personally, I can play a college game without any of the players' names. You can randomize their names, their faces, their stats, their numbers. That's fine with me. But they're not going to do that. They're going to want you to be able to play as the hotshot quarterback from Alabama.
Yeah, and I remember there was the one thing, as an aside, back in NCAA 11, I believe. Because, it was right after Tim Tebow was drafted by the Broncos. There was a player in the game named Tim Tebow, and everybody knew who it was based off of. He didn't play quarterback. I believe he was like a fullback or something, but everybody knew what he was based off. He had basically the same stats and everything like that. So it's not like EA was hiding this for a while.
Right. So yeah. And then around that same time, some of the bigger colleges started to opt out. Notre Dame was the big one that opted out first and was like, look, we're not going to be in this game if you're not going to pay our students, or if we're not going to be allowed to pay our students. Northwestern followed suit. A couple of other schools hopped in and out. I think Illinois was very specifically like, we're in, I promise. And
that's another thing. We do have to talk about these schools that may or may not be in, because there's a lot to talk about with the CLC.
Right. And so that brings us to the last 2 weeks. So last week, wait, where's all my stuff? So last week, all my tabs closed. Hold up.
Control Shift C or T. Sorry.
Oh yeah, because it's not under college football. Under college. Last week, the Supreme Court
Live productions, guys.
Yeah, sorry about
happens.
this. This is real unprofessional of me. Sorry,
I should have like a.
Sorry, folks.
What I should have is when we have this. I need to get like a screen of like the technical difficulties, like an old CRT TV graphic. I have to.
It's really not.
That is what. That's what I'm going to have for next week.
There we go. We just didn't write about it. No way.
I don't know.
Okay.
We
anyway,
write about so much.
It's fine. The point being, last week the Supreme Court made a unanimous decision, which, if you know anything about Supreme Courts, is wild in itself. They made a unanimous decision that the way the NCAA treats amateurism is illegal. This caused the NCAA to basically come out and be like, hey, don't yell at us yet. We're going to all meet. We're going to figure some rules out. We'll get this together. And I think a lot of people, myself included, just assumed that was going to be like, well, we're going to say, forget it anyway. Forget them. We'll figure it out. But they didn't do that. What happened is that actually the NCAA came together today. This was an announcement today. And we're like, actually, yeah, turns out. I believe the official decision, which I'm pulling up, the official decision effectively suspends restrictions on payments to athletes for sponsorship deals, for online endorsements, and for personal appearances. Sorry. And it's for all three divisions. So it's not even just Division 1. It's all the way down to like it's D3. The sweet Evansville Aces, they get this.
My college Ball State Bengals, baby.
There you go. And so this is a big deal, right? Because this opens up this gateway in theory, and that's what we're here to talk about today. This opens up this gateway in theory for NCAA players to be paid to be part of an EA Sports college football game. Now, does that happen, Mike? Because it's not called EA Sports NCAA Football. EA still has their licensing deal with the CLC. They have not worked anything out, to my knowledge, with the actual NCAA league.
No, they have not. Before I touch on the players and the real players, we'll talk about the CLC. I'll answer a couple questions that we're getting. So the CLC, there's a lot of teams. I believe of the 130 teams in the FBS, Football Bowl Subdivision, there's 118 of them that are part of the CLC. Now, schools like Northwestern, which is a part, Tulane, which is a part, said they're not going to be part of it unless players get paid. Okay. The one school that isn't a part of the CLC in the first place, Notre Dame, said it. They've been a big proponent a long time, their president, of getting these players played. But there are other schools, right, that aren't part of the CLC. Those schools include some big names like a Clemson, like a Pittsburgh, like a USC, a Kentucky, Arizona State. So big
Kentucky
conferences.
Not in the CLC? That's surprising to me.
Big conferences, Power 5 conferences, not a part of the CLC. So I do want to know. I'm interested to see what happens here with those schools, whether they sign a board or they have to sign independently with EA. So let's get into a couple questions here about it before I move on to real players. So there was one I saw. I cannot find it to be. It was basically a lot of this. Daniel Colon, if 2K makes an NCAA game, it's over for Madden. 2K will not. EA has, like they do with Madden, right? EA has the exclusive simulation rights to college football. That's what they have. So if 2K got in it, it'd be an arcade like what they're doing with their NFL 2K game. So that kiboshes that. And
do they have that with the NCAA though?
No, they have it with college football. So they can do an NCAA game without college teams, but no one will give a damn if there's no college team.
No, but that's what I mean though. Is that true? Because EA. Yes, go ahead.
Last week or earlier this week, Matt Brown of Extra Points, I believe his name is Matt Brown. he had filed a FOIA request, which is a Freedom of Information request for those who don't know. And he got access to the agreement proposal that was ultimately signed between EA and the CLC. Now, what was redacted, it was a partially redacted proposal. So it doesn't have the monetary values. All we know is schools break down into different tiers. We don't know what schools are in what tiers as far as payment. But it is an agreement with the CLC for exclusive simulation rights to use their member programs.
Okay, but that leaves the door open, though, right?
That leaves the door open for the schools not in the CLC.
Right.
But of the 118 school, like that's 12 schools at the end of the day. Of the 118 schools, if they're going to be a part of the game, based on what this agreement says, if it's a simulation football game, only then EA is producing it with those schools.
That's interesting. Interesting, and that doesn't feel like that would actually be very binding if 2K got something with
if they got something with the NCAA.
That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, that's obviously that's like a big hypothetical situation.
Right, yeah, this is all right. This is all hearsay right now. That this is all assuming 2K sees this and decides they want to try to get involved too, which maybe they do. I don't know.
If you want to read that full story about what that document entails, by the way, it is on sportsgamersonline.com because we talked about the idea of it kind of give insight to when the game is going to launch. And it's looking based on what EA does with EA Play, giving them the 7-day access. So the agreement with the CLC goes in, it lasts for 4 games. NCAA football 24, 25, or college football 24, 25, 26, 27. It starts July 1st, 2023. So that's the earliest that the game could release. Now, when you look into EA Sports history with sports games over the last handful of years, they do their 1 week of 10 hours trial for EA Play members. So that would put July 7th out the window, which July 7th is a Saturday anyway. So you're not going to have a game released on Saturday. Games are usually nowadays released on Fridays. So we're looking at the following week, which is July 14th. Or July 7th is a Friday. July 8th would be the week to give them a full week. They're not going to release a game on a Saturday. July 14th is that Friday. You give them that full week, so the EA trial would start on the 7th, and then you have on the 11th, you have that 3-day pre-order that they usually do. That's just putting 2 and 2 together with what I think would be the most likely thing to happen as far as the release date.
Well, yeah.
But we do know July 2023 is going to be when that game comes. It's not going to come out the same month as Madden.
Right.
It's not going to come out after Madden. So July 2023 is when you're going to get your hands on it.
Yeah, and that's a good educated guess either way because, NCAA football 14, July 9th, NCAA football 13, July 10th. Like, that's the window that those games launch in. So
yeah, exactly. And the big, like I said, the big thing is with that deal not starting until July 1st, so they want to likely give players a week of the 10-hour trial on EA Play and Xbox Game Pass, then it just makes sense. Granted, that's 2 years down the line. We'll see. Now, the idea of the real players. This is where one of the big questions is, how is EA going to get real players without these players being part of a union? And this decision from the NCAA, now it's still a temporary one. It's not the final thing. This was based on what the Supreme Court ruled and that what the D1 Council came in and said, let's do something quick, Band-Aid, and work on something while they're still working and getting sponsorship deals. Because you got to think, like in Alabama, a Najee Harris, right, would have been paid boatloads just to do a sponsor for a car company. Are you kidding me? Down in Alabama, or a gas station, or a local ad for Sonic.
Well, and what's probably true is he did anyway, right? Like they just didn't. Right, like that's the thing is like these players are making money. They're just not doing it above the table. And so that's the way that they should be doing it. Look at the old
SMU from the 80s, man. If you don't know, go watch Pony Excess, the ESPN 30 for 30, and there's no way Eric Dickerson wasn't getting paid to go to SMU.
Oh,
there's no way. And he'll deny it till the cows come home. But watching that, you don't get a car like that as a 19-year-old man. And, okay, I'm not going to rant on that. I got to save my one rant. But, so this decision, right? It suspends the restrictions on payments for things like the sponsorship deals, online endorsements, and personal appearances. The question is, what would a video game fall under? Right now, it doesn't fall under any of that. They can promote the game, right? There's like with the endorsements and stuff like that. But that doesn't really allow them to get into the game. There is no, I'm interested, and I doubt EA right now wants to negotiate with every single player. They're going to want a collective group to get these players in. A union, for the lack of a better term, they want a union of these for these players, which this is opening the door for, an athletic union. And everybody goes by to, well, they're collegiate athletes. This is where rant comes in. So if you want to rant, timestamp 33 minutes and 7 seconds, because this is where that starts. Okay. So you'll get these people, that'll say, well, they're already getting the free education. I went off on this before, but I'm going off on it again. Free education. They're supposed to be amateur athletes and they shouldn't be getting paid because they're getting the room and board. Garbage. Being an athlete, especially at a D1 football or basketball level, is a full-time job in addition to being a full-time job of a college student. I don't care who you are, what you say, what you think. There's no denying it. You can't prove it otherwise. These kids bring in billions upon billions upon billions of dollars for these university programs. And they see zero of it, while these coaches are making like 9, 10, 12 million dollars. But these kids who are busting their ass day in and day out to put a product on the field that people want to pay to see and fill up 100+ thousand stadiums larger than the NFL can fill, and they aren't getting a dime of it. Okay, so this, if anybody thinks this is a bad thing, you can miss me with that. You can just go. Okay, I'm not going to hear your argument because it's a dumb one. There's few things I won't hear arguments for. This is one of them. Players not being paid. Admittedly, when I was in college, I was one of those, no, they're getting a full athlete. Well, I'm taking out these full ride. I'm taking out these student loans. The older I got, you think I'd become more like conservative in my mindset and more like hunker down that? Nah, man, I don't care. They make so much money for those programs. My only concern is will what they can make off the field impact where they go, right? But that's a story not for a video game thing. That's a story for like a whole, like a morality or legality thing. So like the smaller schools, like the MAC schools, you're not going to get noticed as much. So like as if you went to an Alabama, even as a second string guy in Alabama, compared to a starter in the MAC or Conference USA, now that's going to be a decision. But small rant over, annoyed. Again, missed me with that. Players shouldn't get paid nonsense. But I still don't think they get into the game without being part of a union here, because EA is going to not want to go the boxing route with negotiations.
Well, and it's interesting because I don't know enough about name, likeness.
Daniel Cologne.
I don't know enough about how that stuff works to know if this now opens the door for the C to be allowed to make those deals with the players, right? I have no idea if that gives them the ability to then reach out through the CLC to those players. I would assume that might be true, but I don't know. I don't know how that works. So.
I don't believe, if you're in the comments and you know this for sure, I don't believe that the CLC handles anything
for sure
licensing wise with individuals. The CLC only handles universities, conferences, bowls, and the NCAA as a whole.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I was alluding to at the beginning,
with
right?
Players.
Is that was EA's way to work around the NCAA and specifically the players' likenesses, because it didn't obtain the likenesses of the players. It obtained the likenesses of the stadiums and the teams and the bowl games. But that's my question, is then does the CLC, and this is, beyond whether or not these guys can be in the game, like, does the CLC get to put names on the backs of jerseys now? Does the CLC get to...
Well, some schools have had the names on the backs. Oh, you mean for selling them?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's maybe. It's the same vein as that stuff, right? Because like, if that gives the CLC the ability to then start obtaining player likenesses, then they won't need to wait for a student union, although that should exist anyway. Then they won't have to wait for that. They can just have the CLC try to work their way through that stuff. If that's not something that the CLC is interested in, or, if they don't have the groundwork to do that easily, then this would assume to bring student likenesses involved, they would have to now then go through the NCAA directly. But I don't know.
Yeah. So one thing that comes out of this report from the Associated Press is I'm just going to read what it says here, and then we can talk about it. Because again, I think next week we'll talk about the past NCAA games, because this is a big enough story that we can't really get into everything in just 1 hour.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I'm quoting the story. For now, the NCAA with this ruling has largely left the issue in the hands of more than 1,100 member schools. The president of the NCAA, Emmert, he said, quote, "The current environment, both legal and legislative, prevents us from providing a more permanent solution and the level of detail student athletes deserve." In the letter to member schools last week, Emmert stressed the high court still puts authority to govern college sports in the hands of the association. However, he warned schools that existing and new rules are subject to antitrust analysis, and we should expect continued litigation, particularly in the area of play for pay. The NCAA said the temporary policy addresses pay for play and the continued ban on improper inducements tied to choosing a school. So you still can't pay somebody to go to your school.
Right.
Like bribe them. That's still not a thing. This is for a player to go, hey, wait a minute. A local restaurant, pizza chain wants me or whatever. This. So we do have some questions on this and some of your opinions. Christian Phelps, since the game doesn't come out to 2023, has had enough time to sign all the schools and players. 100% enough time. That's why it's not coming out until 2023. If they really wanted to, they could have it out next year, but they did. EA did this. EA is a lot smarter than a lot of people want to give them credit for. They're the reason they're one of the biggest companies in the world, if not the biggest gaming conglomerate in the world. It's plenty of time. Will they do it? They have to make a decision by granted, they can have all the schools. The players stuff, like, even if they just want to have the names in the game, they could wait until like couple months before gold. If they want to have going gold, if they want to have the models in the game, then you have to get it done. If I want to put a time on it, you're looking at, you want to get it done by this time next year, because then you have time to work on the player models.
Yeah. I want to loop back around to Javon Jackson, who says, just want college football. No one cares about the names and likenesses. After 3 years of dynasty, it's made up folks anyway, which, like I said earlier, like that's how I am with the college sports stuff, is exactly like when I'm on season 9 of dynasty mode, none of the players are real players anyway. The thing is, Javon, is that they're going to use the likeness? I suspect that's my suspicion, is that they're
especially
still going
if they want to do an ultimate team, which
my suspicion is that they are still going to model. They're still going to make a star quarterback look like a star quarterback and have stats like a star quarterback, even if his name is Tom Tebow instead of instead of his real name, right? And this is not my endorsement of Tim Tebow. It's just the example you used earlier, so it's the first one that came to my mind. The issue is, I think that they will still do that, and if that's what they're going to do anyway, I think the players should get paid for it.
100%. You're not going to get me to argue. Obviously, I want them to get paid. Yeah. Get your money. I am never against getting my money. I negotiated my 9 to 5. I negotiated to get a $1,000 a year extra. I milk it dry.
If the first preview for NCAA college football comes out and every team is randomized and none of the power teams have the same offensive players that they have in real life at that point, and they just do the draft class from the very beginning, I am totally fine with that. I don't have any issue with that. I think that's fine for me. I don't follow college sports close enough to know college players. But what will happen is that they will produce a team like Florida or a team like Alabama. And in order to make that school feel like how the school plays in real life, they will have to make those key players in those key positions as good to mirror the real life players. And that's where then those players who are being mirrored should be paid for that.
Fact.
So that's kind of my thing is like, yes, like I will always play an NCAA football game long enough that no real names or portraits will exist anymore. But I don't suspect that EA will stick to that concept well enough to not still recreate player likenesses. So I would much rather them just pay the players that they're get the licensing for the players.
So another one, Selector D, does that mean 2K can or cannot make an NCAA basketball game? This is only based on football, the licensing agreement with CLC. So 2K, if they saw the revenue, the money, which there was a big reason why that stopped before, also the Edo ban and stuff, but 2K stopped after College Hoops 2K8, and that's because there's just no money in it. Great game. Amazing game. College Hoops 2K. If you never played on the PS3 or Xbox 360, go find it, play it. But it just didn't have the money.
Yeah. And I mean, like, theoretically, this opens up the ability for 2K to do that, right? If they want to. But again,
yes.
Like, it depends on if they think it's like a fiscally good decision. So. Yes.
Jay Stu says, couldn't they hypothetically just say, here, sign your NLO to be in the game and get a free copy, otherwise you won't be in the game? I don't see why not, but are they going to want to do that with, you got to think, for college football specifically,
right?
1,100 schools, well, that's for the entire NCAA, so we'll just go FBS. 130 schools, and you're what, 75 players per school? I'm not good at math. Let's just load up that on an old calculator. We'll just do 75 players times 130. I don't know if he is going to want to do that for 9,750 players. They might, but who knows? If a union's created, how long will that take? It could go super quick.
We covered that one a little bit. Yeah, I mean, unions famously slow to be recognized. So even if it got made very quickly, which is another arduous process, it would take a whole nother issue with trying to deal with the NCAA. So
Raj of Columbus shouts out the legendary Tom Tebow from the University of the Peninsula off the border of Georgia. You forgot in the southern United States.
No, this is perfect.
No, I actually like that.
I hope they bring back school creators so I can create the University of the Peninsula off the border of Georgia.
Amazing.
But yeah, somebody mentioned something about Division II and Division III teams. I think that would be really cool.
I don't see that happening anytime soon.
I think games in the past already made up Division II teams rather than licensing the actual Division II teams.
Yeah, what they did for a while is they did it. The NCAA did include FCS schools that you could swap and move them up in the dynasty mode if you wanted to before starting, of course, into FBS or into at the time BCS. So they could do that. So you could have like a North Dakota State or something like that. That's as far as I go. I don't see a D2. And the reason I say that is because then we can maybe get Ivy League into it, because Ivy League is not a D1. They are an FCS. They're their own thing. But you could possibly get those in. So that's as far as I think that goes, to be honest.
At the very least, we would need to see a new
Justin, FCS right? Northwest. Yep, that's exactly it. Where they would make up
there we
teams.
go. Yeah.
Yep.
At the very least, we'd have to see a new partnership because the CLC doesn't cover Division II schools, to my knowledge. So,
it covers the NCAA, but it just says it provides to more than 200 colleges and universities. I'm sure on their website we could probably get.
I don't know. Yeah,
we could get all of theirs if we look at their clients. Let's do a quick thing of clients. That is way too much to search, and I will not. College, university. Here we go. All. Yeah. So they Albion Christian University, Alabama A&M. So they do have some FCS schools Alaska Anchorage, University at Alabama. So they
And the
do, or
Bulldogs?
University at Albany. I'm sorry. They do things with D2 schools. The
No,
Atlantic
Alabama A&M is a Division I football team.
Are they, or are they FCS?
Yeah. They play in the NCAA Division I football championship subdivision. Okay, you got me. Hey, you got me. It's Division I. It says
That's why I'm saying.
It's got one in the name.
Yeah, I know. But there's FBS and there's FCS. There's the bowl and the championship.
Right.
The championship is better, but I digress. CLC covers NIA schools as well, so I'm sure they have some D2. J Stu says, yeah, it makes sense. This is where okay, Jay Rich, this is one of the biggest points that I wanted to get to that we haven't yet. Team builder. There was not going to be a team builder without this deal. I don't know if there will be, but there was like I don't want to say there's never a 0%, but I'd put it at less than 25% chance of a full team builder if this wasn't done. Because you don't want EA to get into the same problem they had before of, they're just going to create these schools and they're going to create the real players and stuff. This will open the door to a team builder and roster management. I don't know if there'll be a roster share like there was in the past. This could open the door to that, but this opens the door for a team builder, which has me way more excited than I think a normal person should be.
Yeah, I mean, one of my
I
don't know. I don't always have something to add immediately, Mike.
Well,
give me a second.
Come on.
Jeez.
God, get to the point.
I
Jake.
talk famously slow and around the point.
It's one of my Midwestern drawl.
It's the real Midwest goodbye energy. My very first memory with one of the NCAA football games was creating a team out of Hawaii that was baby blue and bright pink. And I just want to,
cotton candy.
I've been chasing that high in a sports game ever since, and no sports game will let me do it. PES let me get really close.
What about NBA 2K? Their team creator's probably the best in the business right now.
I guess I haven't played an NBA 2K game.
I think they'd allow, but they are by far to me the best in the business.
But yeah, I think bringing school creator and even like maybe not play creator, but play book creator, I feel like are both things that have to be in a new college football game. Like,
yes, play creator is huge. And that's something I guess I expect that to be coming to the Madden series in a few years anyway too. So
play creator? I don't know. Do you think?
Yeah, when EA picks up the maximum football source code with play creator. Guys, I'm not reporting that. If you haven't watched, this is basically turned into a running gag at this point. Christian, how about a wish list for the game? We were going to touch on that. We're going to move that topic to next week's episode of what we want to see for this game and looking back at past NCAA games because the licensing thing was such a big deal that we will move on to that next week.
One thing I'll sneak in real quick. This is not necessarily a wish list thing, but something that does have me excited for college football is earlier this week, Madden announced all of that home field advantage stuff and the crowd noise stuff, which, is upgraded directly from the older NCAA games. So it's good to know that if they're going to move forward with producing this game, they do have some of this stuff ready to port in. So
yeah, 100%. DeMarcus Robertson, custom stadium upgrades and renovations would be awesome as well. I would love that. He added as a second point, love to rebuild Marshall and grow the stadium to 100,000 plus. Dude, that would be incredible. I don't know if they'd ever do it, but man, would that be incredible. Incredible. It's kind of like why you can't create a stadium in Madden because teams don't like that, man. They don't like the idea of their stadiums being replaced. It's weird. Yet you can relocate your team. But, and keep the branding. You can build a new stadium, but you can't create it how you want. It's weird. So we only got a few minutes left. We're going to get to these questions. A lot of it is NCAA football. There's a few that aren't, but we're going to get to as many as we can right now. Most of them. Let's see. Justin Stevens, we better be able to play as mascots. There is nothing more stupid fun than playing as a mascot and walking around like you're the Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket and you're running and there's your abdomen just swinging behind you, going side to side.
What was your go-to mascot for mascot mode?
Sparty.
Yeah.
Sparty
Mine was Stanford.
Yeah, dude, yeah, the tree.
Yeah.
But no, I was Sparty all day. For a while when they had the Syracuse Orange, I would use him, but Sparty was the biggest thing. OB, I'm intrigued to see how recruiting will be. Well, it'll be great when they buy the source code to Maximum Football.
So Justin Stevens earlier asked if we had any information about what unannounced EA Sports game is rumored to be coming out next year. And you seemed to tease him a little bit. Is that anything you want to drop in the podcast here? How are you feeling?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right.
No.
That's fine. I just figured I'd bring it up.
I literally can't say anything.
Oh, I see.
My hands are my hands are tied, and I imagine I'm just wrapped with like mounds of duct tape around my mouth.
Okay. Can I
say
take one guess?
I will say, sure. I can't. I'm not answering it.
Okay.
But it's
Casey
not a
Powell
sex
lacrosse.
That is not an EA game. But Casey Powell lacrosse, I'm waiting to hear back. I have put out feelers to ask if there's something coming. I did see that.
That's our weekly Casey Powell lacrosse watch. And that's
I'm looking for it. I want an indoor lacrosse game though. Give me another box lacrosse game. But yeah, the game. I will say the game coming out that is expected to come out next year is going to make a lot of people happy. It'll probably make a lot of people not happy because they're like, oh yeah, it's going to ruin it and not make it as good as it used to be. Whatever. The game that they're planning on coming out with will make people happy. That's all I can say right now. But let's see what else we got here. By the time this game comes out, will it be on PC? And if so, will it be next gen, current gen? I could see it being on
probably.
PC.
It'll be the PS4 version in 2023, I bet. The PC version.
If they release it, you want to hear rants. We'll still be going with this in 2023. And if we are, okay, and they still have games on PS4 and Xbox One in 2023, let alone 2020 in 2022, let alone 23, you are going to hear me complain and yell about it constantly.
Here's your rare Jake Jacobson rant is that it's ridiculous that EA keeps developing games for the PC on the last generation stat sheet when the personal computer is the most next generation hardware available to anyone.
Yeah, next year it's going to be more powerful than every console anyway.
It's so wild.
But I will say EA did respond to me when I asked because they had a lot of criticism about the PC version. So they did quickly respond and they said it's something being explored,
right? Yeah,
it's being explored for the future. They're still early on in the transition to next gen, and right now the team is focused on making the best quality experience on new consoles before looking to upgrade other platforms. That basically says to me, a friend of the show, a friend of SGO, a friend of mine, Brian Mazik, brought up a really good point on his show earlier this week. I guarantee you it's a case of Xbox and Sony not wanting when people are still struggling to get their hands on this new console, not wanting the PC version to come in and undercut them and be like, well, then I'll just build a PC because it's easier.
Do you think they have that kind of draw though? Do you think that's written into those contracts? Because
I don't know if it's written in the contract, but I think I could see it. I honestly could see it.
I feel like I would be quicker to assume that they just don't have like enough dedicated development to do the next gen stuff on the PC.
They do, 100%.
Maybe.
Right. It's just the idea of that. Justin Stevens, we got time for a couple more. When are we getting any real 2K22 WWE news? Later. I was going to say later this month, but that hasn't started. I believe around SummerSlam, so August, is when we'll start getting a lot more actual things on features, roster, and things like that. Though I can't wait to put together a roster. I can build a full roster of wrestlers who won't be in the game this year. Demand NC, do you think we'll ever get a college baseball game again? No. Any chance we get college football details at EA Play? Maybe not at it, but around it.
Yeah,
possibly.
maybe. But if that game's coming out in 2023, what do you think? I'm struggling to think of what they would have to say.
Nothing. EA Play 2022 would be my guess.
Let me preface this by saying I've been 0 for 3 on my called shots on whether or not something will or will not be announced at a show. So like, take this with a grain of salt. But I struggle to imagine what they would have to show for a game that comes out in 2 years. You know, I feel like they would start doing that cycle next year.
I mean, they could be like a Bethesda and just show a logo.
I guess that's true. I mean, that they've already done that. They could just animate the logo, I guess.
DeMarcus Robertson, someone start a wish list on Reddit. No, start a wish list at sportsgamersonline.com/Discord and join the community as we grow to become a Discord partner, and join in and start a wish list there, because what we're doing as part of our wish list series is we are scouring what you guys want as part of community wish list. And if you're an SGO insider at sportsgamersonline.com/insider, you can actually choose the topics of the wish list and help us create the main SGO one. So that's something to consider. Muhammad Ali is great. Yes, he is, but maybe.
Oh, I thought that was the question. I was like, okay.
Any news on the NASCAR 21 game? Get ready. End of July, we'll have some exclusive stuff at SGO.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
At least give us EA PJ. This is more likely. I'm doing literally rapid fire right now. We got about a minute left. Rapid fire. This is more likely than NCAA. Is EA Big going to make a comeback? It's looking more likely. There's a lot of people at the top really like. It's getting a lot of more support internally that I think it's going to happen. Do you think Kirk Herbstreit will be in the booth? I don't know. I'm really interested in what they do by commentary, if they go the Madden route, or they do decide to bring in Madden and now NHL and have their own, or they get that deal with ESPN back. But there is a lot of rumblings now. ESPN's looking to partner with the studio and do their own thing and bring back the ESPN line of games. So we're interested. I'm interested to see what comes of that. If they decide to jump back in with an EA, or if they decide to partner with somebody else and go, we're going to do ESPN games again, which I think might be what this industry needs to really give it a nice little boost, punch, whatever you want to think.
I hope.
Go on.
Reed Howard says, do you think Madden is looking until Madden 23 to release next gen on PC? If there's still a last gen version of Madden 23, I hope next gen's on PC.
I think it will be. I think next year is when you see it. There's a lot. Yeah.
Here's my question to you, because you're more tapped in on this than I am. Do you think there's a chance that they start bringing next gen aspects to the PC version at some point? Do you get that impression based on the way they answered that question? No,
not this year.
Okay.
No, none of it will be. It's kind of going to be treated like the 2K. That's last gen, and that's just what's going to be. Matt Marconi, any news on NHL 22? They're waiting till the end of the season to announce some things. Got time for a couple more. If ESPN Selector D, if ESPN does deal with 2K, does that mean 2K? No, the simulation football, that's all an EA deal. They can stick with arcade.
Yeah, that deals through the National Football League and the Players Association. ESPN doesn't have the ability to have the rights to simulation football. That's straight up through. I mean, like couldn't they do simulation football with made up teams? But like they wouldn't. I don't think.
Yeah, but it didn't work out last time.
Right. Yeah. So.
And last question we'll get to is PGA Tour, EA PGA Tour going to be on Xbox One? I don't think so. They've only mentioned it being developed for Xbox Series X and PS5. They haven't mentioned any other platforms. They keep calling it a next-gen golf experience. They have not mentioned anything, and personally, that's the way, I like it. That's the way, No, I'm not going to sing it because we'll get demonetized.
You don't want to do a lead us in a little outro song here?
No, we'll get demonetized.
If you want to do the song, I'll say all the words you usually say. I think I remember most of them. So
nope, we will get totally demonetized. It doesn't matter.
Okay, all right.
But that is going to do it for this week's SGO Press Pass live here on youtube.com/sportsgamersonline. He is Jake Jacobson. You can follow him on Twitter at the composer. It's right there on your screen. Follow me on Twitter at Mike Straw Media. You can follow SGO everywhere at Sports Gamers Online. Just look for us. Twitter, except it's Sports Gamers On because of the character limit. But until next time, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share this video. We'll see you again next week. We're out.